It's not come up yet. Oh,
Hello. So, welcome to today's Advent. So, day 8 already. And I've been going through all the honeys and planning out which ones I'm going to do which days. And today is interesting because I decided on this honey producer called Bybi, who were in Copenhagen. And it was funny because as I was going through all my honey collections, I found I found this one. I was looking at it and I was thinking, oh, where did I get this? Or I didn't remember getting it. Then I saw the name Bybie on the front. And then I also found this one, which has Bybie on, actually on the jar. And now, the reason these are interesting is because when I went to Copenhagen for Apomondia, I went to a Colos conference, which was about why colonies are collapsing, bee colonies are collapsing. And then it was the main Apomondia, and I was speaking, and I had 2 presentations, so I didn't have a lot of time to go and do any excursions. But there was one excursion which I could do in the daytime, in between the Colos and the first day that Apomondia started, and I booked it, and it was to this Bybi, who are an urban bee project. And I looked at it and I thought, well, actually, this would be really good, forgetting that I have their honeys and not conscious that I'd ever heard of them before. So now, normally at Apomondia, you have a big stand that sells all of the trips, but this one, everything had to be done online. And then when I was at the main conference centre and it was day 1, so it was all opening, I was looking for an information stand. I found an information stand and I said, look, I've booked this trip, but I don't know where they are. So they said, oh, it's all got to be done online. So then I talked to somebody else who showed me on the map, because I couldn't find, there weren't enough details online. It just said, come to our showroom or our base. And I couldn't find it on the map. So then a local woman was reading it all in Danish, and then she said, oh, there it is, find it. So I got a train, because there's all these trams and trains through Copenhagen. So I got a train and then I walked the last bit, and I got to where my map said it was, and there was nothing there. And I looked around, I asked a few people, nobody knew what it was. So then I thought, oh gosh. So I sort of zoomed in and looking at actual buildings, I thought, oh, maybe it's behind this building. So I then went round and went through some alleyways and housing estates. And then I found a place. I thought, oh, great, I've got it. And it was a community garden. And then there was a building with a lot of people outside. So I thought, great, I've got it. But the people outside, it was actually a children's nursery. And they didn't know anything about the honey. So I went into the garden. There was a couple of buildings and greenhouses, and I spent a bit of time and I was looking around. And then I sat down there because I was like, well, maybe I'm early or late, or perhaps there's a group coming. So then I WhatsApped the people that I booked to see. And of course, they were busy doing their tour. And then I did get a message after a bit that said, well, we've given you the address. There's not much more we could do. And I was sort of describing what I could see, and they, anyway. And then I didn't get any messages because obviously they were doing the tour. And it had turned out that I had literally done a big loop. I'd taken a train from the conference centre past my hotel where I was staying, and then the next stop along, then I'd walked all the way along and had done a circle, and I'd ended up almost right behind my hotel. So I thought, oh, well, I'll go back to the hotel. And that was when I started really working on my book. So the last stages of writing my book. So I was a bit cross that, I wanted to go and see this group. And what added insult to injury was quite a few people I saw through the rest of the conference said, oh, have you been to Bybi? They're just up your street and you'd love them. And there was no other time for me to do that. And as soon as the conference was finished, I was heading back. So when I got home and I find that I've got Bybi honeys, I'm like, where did these come from? Now, I did remember that one of my sons had been to Copenhagen. So this one, I'm pretty sure, came back from him. And this is the one I'm going to taste today. The other one, I only found out about a couple of days ago where this came from. And what it was I went to a natural beekeeping conference. Um, I can't remember whether it was 2022 or 23, but it was in Oxfordshire. And when I was there, a friend of mine, or Kerry, had met a beekeeper on her Bologna honey sensory analysis course, and she had met this lady that wanted some honey samples, and we can ship to oh, actually, I've just got to turn on my battery. Oh, stop going flat. Oh, right. Sorry, all the red lights came on. So, and she was meeting up with me, and I had some honey. So I'd had some honey that I had, and I was selling to her, and we met up there. And I think she was in a rush, I was in a rush. Anyway, we met briefly, and she didn't speak an awful lot of English. I speak no Danish. And it really was in a rush. So she wanted to ask stuff, but we were trying to understand each other. And I found a photograph. So I'd completely forgotten about this lady and everything about that until I was going through photographs of honey so that I could share them in my honey advents. And then I found a picture of this lady at this conference handing me this jar of honey. So, crazy. So I've actually met a woman from Bybi. So, extraordinary. And I actually recorded a podcast. I've talked about this, how we need the time. If we're slow, we don't miss things. And
Mm.
where I was busy and everything was busy and, feeling everything was successful, I was actually missing the detail, missing the little bits. So doing this Advent has been really good because it's helping me to pull together images and honeys and actually taste these honeys. Now, this one, you can see I've already eaten quite a bit of it because it is blimmin' delicious. So it's, if you look at the colour, it's quite a normal sort of honey amber. And what I'm looking for is, if you look, when I pour it round the glass, it sort of coats the glass, and that will give you an idea of the texture. So it is quite viscous and sticky. But knowing what honey it is now, I was looking at the colour to see if I can see a slight greeny tinge, because this is actually linden honey, a really, really delicious sample of linden, or um, as we call it, lime tree. Oh, so as soon as you lift the lid, the citrusy aroma, absolutely amazing. So even though this is a few years old, it's already been opened, it's been used, and the aroma is so strong. So it hasn't crystallized, which is interesting because quite often lime tree will crystallize. So there's probably something else in there that has kept it liquid. Now I'm going to have some. Now, one of the characteristics of a lime tree honey is this aroma, really heady aroma, but also you can often get a hint of green. So, mm, mm, wow, this is such a strong flavor. It's really citrus. It's like lemon peel. If you were to just not even candied lemon peel, but really, really good lemon peel of a preserved lemon. Mm, that is amazing. And when you're taught in Bologna about lime tree honey or linden honey, one of the characteristics you're meant to look for is the bitter aftertaste. And this doesn't really have the strong bitter aftertaste. And what I've learnt from my own lime tree honey, or British lime tree honey, and the difference with Italian is, in Italy, you often get sweet chestnut flowering the same time as linden, as the lime trees. And so the bees will forage on both. And sweet chestnut is really bitter, strong honey. And so you'll get that mix. You have that citrus and then you get the bitter, but this does not have the bitter. So this is a really beautiful, pure linden honey. Mm, absolutely incredible. And oh, I did bring another spoon actually, so I'm gonna have another spoonful of it because it is so good. Now, linden honey, I love the associations with A Midsummer Night's Dream. And in my book, spiritual beekeeping. I talk about linden, about Midsummer Night's Dream, the connection between the herbs, the magic, the dreams, and lime tree blossom has been used medicinally to help with insomnia. And so I love this connection of dreams and insomnia
Mm.
and the lime tree. And with the Midsummer Night's Dream, Shakespeare Midsummer Night's Dream, the fact that Titania and Bottom are sat underneath this tree, this lime tree. I mean, it doesn't say it's a lime tree, but I imagine it would have been. And so the heady aroma in midsummer of a lime tree in full bloom would be enough to send you into a dreamy sleep. And so, we lose those connections. In modern society, we don't think about, well, often we don't even think about the medicinal properties of trees,
Mm.
but also understanding the cycle. And I didn't know that anything about lime trees until I kept bees. And then understanding that they blossom around midsummer and that they only secrete nectar when it's a certain temperature, a certain humidity. So it is very special to get a lime tree honey. And you will often get a city lime tree honey because cities often use lime trees along avenues. And they're so valuable because one tree can provide about 5 acres worth of flowers. So a big mature tree. So that's what we need to be keeping, is the mature trees, so that we can have that much blossom for our bees. So what I'm really excited about is that Bybi had a fantastic honey. I now know I've got to go back to Copenhagen and sort out my map reading, and actually go and visit them and see how they're working, because from all accounts, everyone who visited them said it was amazing. It's complete natural beekeeping, fully in alignment with everything that I do and that I like to help people do. And because I'm so impressed with their honeys, and I tasted the other one earlier, so I'm going to do a separate day with this other honey, and I'm just going to show it and see if anyone can guess what it might be. Um, so yeah, I'm actually going to hide the name because if you speak Danish, you'll probably know. And perhaps from the flower, I reckon you might be able to guess
I,
from the.
I couldn't see it. I couldn't see it easily
Oh
though.
right,
It looked a bit like a horned poppy of some sort, Mechanopsis. Oh no, it's heather.
yes, well done, well done. So yeah, it is a heather honey, and it is just amazing. It's a real true honey. So I will do a separate tasting of that one, and then we'll get to see what the heather honey is.
Yeah, its other name is Ling, so probably appropriate for getting near Christmas. Ding-a-ling.
I've never heard that connection before, but I love it.
Yes.
Oh, oh. So have you got any insights on lime trees with all your horticultural knowledge?
No, I tend to deal with perennials, which are much nearer the ground than
Mm,
trees, because I can't just stick a tree in the back of the van and sell it.
no,
So it tends
no.
to be perennials. Some of my perennials get tall, 5 or 6 feet. Hence, I have a vehicle with a high top. Um, so no, I'm afraid I know nothing about lime trees.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you very much for joining me, and I look forward to sharing the heather honey with you. So, what I am going to do today is go through the calendar and add the exact times and which honeys are going to be which days, because I've now got my office is all lined up with all the honeys. So I know what I'm going to do. All right, thank you very much. Bye.